Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to The Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and your guide along the way. And today we have come to the fourth and last of the episodes exploring Cirque du Soleil's Mystere. And today I am trying to really use the lens of showmanship to look at the show as a sacred thing. What does it mean to look at something as a sacred thing, and what is the sacred? Well, this is what Jay Gilligan and yours truly explore as we cram ourselves into Jay's son's bedroom and recorded this last of the Mystere conversations. I mean, I had such an excellent time hanging out with Jay, and even though we both were a little under the weather, and as you hear along and I comment on it here and there, I have a bad cough and I'm almost losing my voice more than what I normally do. So, but we still had such a great time, and there'll be a few more episodes. These first ones is barely half of, just about half of what the episodes that we recorded on those few days that I had with Jay in real life in Stockholm. So I hope that you enjoy this more highfalutin and far-reaching and deeper exploration as we try to seek out the sacred in Mystere. You have watched the live show of Mystere 80 times?
Like 84.
84 times.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of people might think that that's excessive. And you said something really interesting yesterday about music versus shows.
Yeah, I mean, just the culture and the world we live in, just culturally as a society, there's this, I don't know, habit or attitude towards consuming various experiences, right? And so if you go see a show, well, I go see the show you see it one time because it's a show for some reason. That's just our inclination or habits or something. But a piece of music, it'd be so funny, right? To be like, oh, my favorite song is, Britney Spears, Hit Me Baby One More Time. And I heard it once, 10 years ago. It was great.
I loved it. It was my favorite song.
Loved it. My favorite song.
Have you heard of it? But I haven't listened to it since.
No, because
now I've already heard it.
It's a song.
Yeah.
But no, so with music, of course, it's like totally the thing to do is to like listen to it over and over again. And even I think TV shows, I hear that a lot now, especially with we're in the age of streaming content. So it's like, oh, I'm going through The Office again. Mm-hmm. It's like the third time I've done The Office, but blah, blah, blah. Or I'm watching this series again. And we watch Star Wars movies over and over again. And,
yeah.
But then somehow live experiences mostly, I mean, in this case, we're talking about performances. Even I think bands, if you experience a band's concert, you have all these people who follow the band from city to city. And that's kind of a thing you do.
It's a thing that a lot of people do, yeah.
But for some reason, you go see a show and you've seen it.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I did it, and now that's done, and I know what that's like. And what's funny is, like, a lot of people are like, I saw the Cirque du Soleil show in Vegas. Yeah, I saw it 12 years ago. It was really great. I loved it. It looks fantastic. I saw it 12 years ago.
Yeah. And I wonder why that is. Because I've thought that before as well, that it has to do with I don't know what it has to do with, but that when you're what we are, that in certain ways of expressing it, you can call novelty acts. It's like you see it and it's new and it's a gag, and once you've gotten that gag, then it's not funny anymore.
That could
or
be.
It's not
surprising
anymore or whatever. But what we are doing, I think, is looking for stuff which is has more to it. And I believe that my acts has, and I've had through the ages of doing it, had responses from audience members who have seen it more times, and they go, I love seeing it. And the first time, me personally always say, like, the first time when you watch it, you see the art, and then as you go on, you start to see the craft.
Yeah.
And then also people frequently say, I enjoy coming back so that I can look at their friends who they brought when I do the different things and see the first time on someone else's face.
Yeah, I love that when you talk about your act, that the first time people come and they experience the raw emotion and just the kind of deeper and less intellectual and less conscious, the more intuitive reactions or whatever to your act, and then they come see it again, and then they can start to dig deeper into other elements where they know what's coming in one way, but then they can also appreciate it on that more technical level. And it is that thing maybe of like, if you become a filmmaker and then you can never go see a movie ever again because you're quote unquote ruined for the art form, because you can only ever see then the editing and the lighting and the transitions or something, whatever.
Yeah, that's.
But
I mean, it is something that I also have. I often go to shows and don't get gripped by them the way that I feel like I should. So I watch them and I'm going like, oh, you're doing this now. And this is now.
Well, that's funny you say that. I mean, so I'm also being extreme here. I've seen Mystere 84 times, and now I'm trying to explain our cultural attitude towards consuming different experiences by saying, well, we just go see a show once. And of course, that's not true. Like you just said, people come see your act many times. You were talking the other day about La Soirée, that people would bring their friends to see La Soirée as kind of a badge of honor of like, look, I discovered this thing and now I want to share it with you and go with you. And like you just said about your act, and I want to watch your face as you experience this thing and to see if I'm reflected in that and we have we can relate to that common experience. But it's like a book. We can also read books many times again and again and find a deeper meaning each time.
So this is of course the key where I want to go with this.
Exactly. That's why I was saying about the
But what you have sketched out too, I think it's absolutely most strongly between watching a show, not watching a concert, because even there people go, I love to go and see that band. I think that's a really common thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe they come out when they have made a new album, but if you go to see Bob Dylan has been talked about a lot. You go to see Bob Dylan and he just plays his latest album,
right?
And a lot of people who are Dylan fans goes, Dylan is, as I saw Penn Jillette describe it the other day, Penn is a freak. You stand there, hey, he's the freak, and everybody's looking at him, while Bruce Springsteen is like a cheerleader. He's the one that's in the front and talking about, with the whole crowd is there experiencing the ups and downs, whatever he sings about in his songs, but you never know what Bob Dylan's going to do. It's like he'd made it as this folk singer, and all of a sudden he came out and played electric, and people thought it was crazy, and then he was saved and found Jesus and did that for a few albums, and like he really is like picturing. So anyway, you come there and you want to see the artist again, and so that's what was that last thing with Bob Dylan was just a digression to say, when you come there, you don't necessarily come to go as like, oh God, it was so boring because he played these songs from the old albums and I only want to hear the new ones because I've heard the other ones.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in the live experience of a band, but in a show it's very sort of like, and of course in recorded music, but that too, like how many people would actually watch a DVD of a Cirque du Soleil show and then watch it again and again. Not so many.
Yeah, but I mean, well, thanks for the setup here for so but that's what I was kind of going to get at first and say the experience of watching Mystere live. First of all, hold on, let's back up a second.
Sorry.
Let's get a little bit of perspective here, because it sounds extreme. Oh, you've seen Mystere 84 times, that's wacky. Let's just be real, the show's been around for 31 years. So we're not, that's been a lot of chances to see the show.
So 31 years, and we know for a fact that you watched it the first time within months
of the premiere.
Within years, but within months of it opening. You watched it sometime in 94.
So I've seen it, over the
94,
years.
94, and so it's 30 years. So how much does that get up to? I don't know. But math is not my strong thing.
Right,
but there's a lot of opportunities. Yeah.
But that's just like my first point. Is like it sounds like
365 days in every year. Even if you watched it 180 times,
exactly.
It's not even every third day or whatever.
Now you're making me feel bad. I should try harder. I can do better. No, but you're right. No,
and you did do better.
No, exactly. Yeah. No. So that's the first point. Is that there's been a lot of chances to see the show. The second,
and we're not answering any question, anything about that. It's this is just, and it's an interesting thing about us as artists too, because I believe that there is more depth to see in my acts, not just in my tennis, but when I'm doing my solo shows where I get to say other things and do deeper things, then I believe that there is depth there that you will find on repeat viewing in the way that I have found it and deepened my relationship to my own acts. I have now got more depth, and I had this idea as when I first did it, and then it had all I could possibly put into it at that point.
Right.
Then I did it for a whole season at Circus Nemo, 100 shows.
Right.
And every night I found a little more detail and a little more thing. And now when I come out and I do that for you and Eva in here, and I do it, all that crafting and working and thinking and extrapolating and finding, oh, that moment could become this. Then I can portray all of that in one show. So you get to see my development of that act, and you get it there. And it was all maybe there in seed. Maybe the people who saw it that first time says it's similar or it's the same. Yeah. But they feel it so strong when they see it. And I think that you can go and you can find different things in my acts. So
so a couple more points then, and the first one related to what you just said. You know, Anthony Gatto, the world's greatest juggler, right? We don't need to argue about that. We all know that.
Yeah, right.
Though he's retired now. But
the world's greatest retired juggler.
Yeah, exactly. But he did quote unquote the same act every night. This is kind of a thing people would say. Oh yeah, but you just do this. You just do the same act every night, the same 10 minutes or 12 minutes or whatever, And his response to that at one point was this perspective, which we hear sometimes, which he says, well, no, yeah, sure, it's the same format and it's the same routine, it's the same order of tricks, it's the same number of props, it's the same choreography, but every show is completely different. He wrote that. He used to have a forum, an internet forum that he hosted, and he wrote on there, every show is completely different because the audience is completely different every night. And he's, and maybe now I'm kind of reading into what he said or trying to communicate it here, but every audience member is different, so every experience of every show is different because I'm there in live in real life, and I'm in the moment, and I'm reacting, and I don't know, whatever. He's not a robot, so for sure he breathes differently, and his head turns and looks differently, and the people clap 1 or 2 times more for this trick or whatever, right? And I don't know about I'm not going to put a judgment on that statement, but just to say there is that theory of oh, we're doing the same thing every night, but it's a live performance. It's not a movie. It's not a recording. It's not a whatever robot, or I don't even know how that would work, but he's alive, and this moment in time is a unique moment in time, and it's the only time he ever did his show at 9:30 p.m. on a Tuesday on January 10th, 1994 or whatever, right? So there's that kind of argument too of saying, well, okay, you saw Mystere 84 times, that in that is also implied in some way, but it's just the same show, which goes back to confront the societal relationship to live performances of it's just the same thing. But at the same time, I'm well, obviously 84 times I've seen the show, no 2 shows were the same. And that's not, I don't think that's a stretch to say. And I'm also, but also of course that's drilling down to the granular level of detail of who was in the cast that night and how whatever, right? Who was singing on the show that night, and whereas the broad strokes of the show, yes, there was still the snail at the end, there was still this act came after that act or whatever, right? On the broad strokes, it's Mystere. But on the minute details, it was 84 different shows. I could try to argue if I wanted to. We'll get into that later, what I actually think about it, but there's that kind of theory. And then just to put another context out there for you, it's not like I've only seen 84 shows of Mystere. I've also seen 54 times.
Oh, right.
And I've seen Ka 47 times. And I've seen Blue Man Group. I can't even count. I mean, it's over 50 times. But hey, look, calm down. Oh, it's 25 years old. So I've seen it 54 times. I mean, that's what, twice a year that has been open? That's nothing. That's nothing. and No, but also, I mean, same thing for Blue Man Group. It's been around for whatever 30 years, and Stomp I've seen over 50 times, and I've seen a bunch of shows a bunch of times. I mean, I saw Beatles Love, the Cirque du Soleil show, like 13 times. I hate that show.
Oh, did you?
I hate after the 10-year, or after the, was it the 10-year revamp? Maybe it was a 10-year revamp. I don't remember. They refreshed the show at one point, and then it was kind of unwatchable. And I still saw it 5 times after that, mostly because I loved the theater. The actual structure, the physical theater itself was like an amazing piece of architecture. And that was another thing too, if you want to be even more judgmental of me, of my insanity or obsession. But they used to do a thing pre-COVID. I think they pretty much stopped doing it now. They would do theater tours of the Ka Theater, the O Theater, Mystere. You used to be able to go there too. And Beatles Love. And it was like a promotion thing. So like at noon on Saturdays, you would go to the theater, and for free, you could just go inside, and they would do like a half-hour tech demo of the space. And I would go to those every week because the theaters were cool. And the other part of it, though, is I'm sure there's something about like, my personality in this obsessive way, clearly, that I enjoy this kind of thing. But like, I'm from Ohio, man, and nothing happens in Ohio where I grew up. I grew up on a farm, or next to a farm, in the countryside, and literally in the middle.
Not even on the farm; it was next to a farm.
Literally in the middle of cornfields. Yeah, my mother built her house next to her mom's house, and her mother was a farmer.
Wow!
So literally next door, and there's something about appreciating the opportunity. I mean, of course, it does border on madness, but appreciating the opportunity that you don't normally have to go see culture. And, now I live in Stockholm, Sweden. And when I go to Vegas, I'm in a city where Mystere is playing twice a night, 5 times a week, 5 days a week, And it just drives me nuts to sit at home or sit at the hotel and be like, well, I could be seeing Mystere right now, or I could be here at the hotel. There's like a fine line there, obviously, between madness and like a healthy, obsession with it. But all joking aside, I really do think that part of my job as an artist is to be interested in my genre and to be interested in the world around me. And I love performance, obviously, and I'm super interested in performance. And it's almost in an academic way that, like, if I have the chance to go see a show, I should go see it, because I don't know. There's a couple different types of personalities of artists I've met over the years. I think I fall into one category, and there's another category that I don't really relate to. And that is, I met some jugglers early on in my life who said, I don't want to see another juggler. I don't want to see anybody else juggle because I don't want it to accidentally influence my work, and I don't want to copy anyone. So it's like, I always think of like the ostrich sticking the head in the sand and kind of denying that the world is out there, and just being like, I'm just going to go into myself and inside myself, right? And on one hand, I understand some of that mentality of like, there is, at some point as an artist, you do have to shut out the world, and you have to, what's it called? There's a term for it called like woodshedding. Have you heard that?
No.
Yeah, you go woodshedding. It means you go to your woodshed in the forest, which means you're cutting off your social contacts. You're basically giving yourself time and permission to be yourself and to have space to occupy and to find out who you are and to fill that space and time with yourself. So I'm going to go woodshed. It means you put your head down and you nose to the grindstone and all these metaphors, and you just work. But the problem that, and I don't know if it's a problem, but when I was young, I had an experience which shaped me on this philosophy, which is I saw another juggler who said, well, I'm not going to look at any other jugglers. I don't want to see any videos. I don't want to see any performances. I don't want to even talk or meet any other jugglers. And then they went and kind of reinvented the wheel of a very famous piece from a troupe called Air Jazz. And Air Jazz, they were 3 of my heroes. This juggling troupe, John Held, Peter Davison, and Keziah Tannenbaum. And they had this piece where they had long metal poles. They would each have 3 metal poles, maybe 2 meters long poles or something. And they would place the poles on the ground in such a way that before the one pole falls over, they would place the next pole and catch that one right before it hits the ground, you know, and then they would juggle in this way of placing sticks on the ground. And their piece, it's just iconic. It's just legendary. Like it's not the end all and be all of that technique, but it's not. Yeah, it's very developed and mature and considered and composed, and it's just beautiful. And this person
received well by the audience.
It's iconic. Yeah, so it's culturally
like,
it's a touchstone, right? It's a culturally a touchstone, iconic piece that people can reference. Like it's in the public consciousness, and that's the problem, right? So this person who went alone into the woods or whatever, and then came out and was like, "Oh, I found this thing where you could take 3 sticks and kind of set them on the floor," but it was badly done. It wasn't as thoroughly researched. It wasn't composed in the right, as well as air jazz. But all that's kind of irrelevant, because no matter who it is, they see this person's stick juggling piece and they go, "Oh, air jazz," and then the game's done. And it doesn't even matter if this person really did make it up on their own, which, by the way, I don't think they did, but whatever. Let's say they did make it up on their own. It's not impossible. It doesn't matter. You live in a world where there's air jazz.
Yeah. But
you're stuck in that.
Sometimes when I talk about this, I say something that everybody knows. It's like you go away and then you make an invention and you come back and you go, "I have this thing," and then you put the electricity on it, and this glass globe has light coming out of it.
Right.
It turns electricity into light. And I've made it. I've never seen it before. And somebody goes, "Well, even if you thought that up,
right,
that's 100 years old. It was invented by someone else, so it's too late to invent it."
Yeah.
In a way. So it's that thing with putting, like you said, putting your head in the sand. I say putting blinkers on.
Yeah, blinders on of like the horse and buggy that used to have the blinders.
Yeah, so that they can't see very much.
Exactly.
And then you go, "I am free because I can only see what's right in front of my nose."
Exactly.
And I think there's something,
which is good, right? Because the blinders served a purpose. Horse and buggies, right? The blinders stop the horses from stampeding and getting spooked. They only see what's in front of them, so it serves the purpose of stopping certain problems, right? But then this metaphor in this artistic way, if you have the blinders on, for me, that's another way of saying I am willfully ignorant.
Yeah, and I think the same, like I choose not to know, so then you could spend half of your life woodshedding, coming back with a routine that already exists, so everybody will call you a plagiarist.
Exactly.
And on top of that, I think the same thing extends to technique. Some people, for whether it's hierarchical or Gondian or whatever reason, will go, "Well, I'm going to refrain from technique." In juggling, that's maybe it happens there too. But I was thinking also of artists that go to school and go, "I only work conceptually,
right.
So I don't want to learn to paint an actual horse."
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So I refuse to learn technique, to learn to have a vocabulary or whatever.
So I think there could be some. Sorry to cut you off there. No. I think there could be some value in that in one way, like in one. I don't know. Yeah, let's just say there could be some value in that. Intuitively, as my experience as an artist over the past 40 years of doing what I've done for 40 years now, there's something where, if you can't do a figurative drawing or a photorealistic drawing of like a still life of like a bowl of fruit, but I'm going to splatter paint on the floor like Jackson Pollock or something, and I'm going to skip the life drawing class and go straight for splattering the paint. Intuitively, there's something about me that feels like that process of going through learning the techniques, it's more than learning the techniques. It's learning about how to learn. It's learning about who you are. And it's learning about the things that already exist, like the rules, and then you can break the rules. But because we could examine it from that side too, what you're kind of saying is people want to just break the rules without learning the rules first.
Maybe.
And that's a little bit hard to...
But it's also, to me, it's like to not be influenced by the old masters or Rembrandt or whatever, or so I don't want to know how to paint an actual human body, or I don't know how to paint an actual house and master perspective, or whatever techniques that are like with juggling. You can juggle and you can call anything juggling, and your son has just juggled 20 juggling throws, and you can go, that's what I want to do, because it's the most free, because he's not influenced by any other jugglers that he, or whatever, maybe you, but anyway, like... So to me, this thing of limiting yourself or having techniques, it limits actually it narrows creatively what you can choose to do, because
Yeah.
now you can
There you
only
go.
choose to do
Right.
throwing paint on the floor, sticking holes in a bucket that spins on a wire on a string and make it, or you can
Right.
tape a banana to a wall or whatever. Which is not to say that any of those things are not valuable, or that Picasso's painting, when he was painting cubists or whatever, you could kind of see this evolution. He knew how to paint and he was tired with that, and then moved on to another phase and explored something else.
In my personal experience, though, I have to say, and maybe this is just me as an artist, yeah, I could tape a banana to a wall, right, without any art technique, or without any painting technique or sculpture making technique. But for some reason, I don't. And then I find the same thing in juggling. People who do very simplistic technique that is kind of innovative or provocative in the way of taping a banana to a wall, it's not the people who have never juggled technique before. That's what I was trying to say before. I didn't maybe express it. I can't really express it, but there's a mental process that goes along. Maybe it's just of maturity into the art form. But yeah, like I could go tape a banana on the wall today, or something similar.
Yeah, put a
urinal
yeah.
in the Duchamp, right?
It's too late, yeah, because somebody did that and
No, but to do something that equally innovative, I have a chance right now. Somebody will metaphorically tape the next banana to the wall. It's not going to be a banana on the wall literally, but it'll be in the same vein, right? But I don't think I'm the person to do that, and it's also because I'm just not steeped. And I'm not deep into that world, and part of getting deep into the world is the technical journey somehow.
And maybe we're probably getting a little bit into the weeds here, but this is important and interesting.
I can round it.
Are you
round it back.
freer if you don't have like me, who have identified as a juggler and as a magician and as a freak show artist and all these things? Would I have been more free as an artist if I hadn't pursued all these skills? Because it doesn't feel like that now.
Right
when
on.
I'm doing a show with my family and I go, I need something else than magic, or I need something else and then I go, what can I do? And I have a spectrum of stuff that I can do, and I can delve into different modes of presentation because I have tried many things. So then the showman comes out, and you feel like he could grab onto anything and do anything. And when I present my daughter, I present it in a freak show style, but people in Norway don't quite know what that is, but I can hear that it's distinctly different from me when I'm doing the magic routine or whatever.
Right.
So that offers me a scope. So what do you think?
To sum all that stuff back up and to pull it back into the line, it's very easy. It's just two steps. The first statement is, we live in a world where we're not alone. And that's so important to me, and part of my process in my life. We live in a world where there's other people inhabiting it, whether we like that or not. We cannot escape it. If you come out and you do the crystal ball contact juggling, people are going to say Michael Motion. Like, you just can't escape that. So how are you going to confront that moment? So that's like my first big, I mean, for me, it's very, obviously I get very animated about it, or passionate about it, because I think it's a real strong point, and that like, we are all connected. We all live in a community, and that's the first thing. How do you choose to interact with that community? And then the second thing is, because we are in a community, for example, when I go to Vegas and I'm a performing artist, there's 100, on any given night, there's something like an average of 110 live performances in Las Vegas every night of the year. 110 shows, like opportunities to buy tickets to go see live events or experiences or whatever, right? So as an artist, how can I not? I feel a responsibility to my work to go out into the world and see what is the community that I am a part of. Because, right, it doesn't do me any good to go see Mystere 84 times and then go home and shave my head and paint my head blue and be like, oh, Frodo, I got this new act, you got to check it out. And then I paint my head blue and you're like, oh, Blue Man Group. And I'm just like, what? And you go, yeah, dude, just go down the street. They have a whole show. Yeah. Right? So I feel there is some, I mean, it's a little, there's a truth here, but it's a little bit of a tenuous connection. But like, I really feel compelled in my work in general to explore the community around me, to have conversations with you and whoever else I can have a conversation with. Yeah. Because that's part of my process as an artist. And so then in terms of this compulsion to kind of study I really think of it sometimes as studying what's around me.
But I did talk to this guy called Kaspar Tranberg, who is a jazz musician in Denmark, and he played music with the Circus that I was with, but he also has a career that has actually fully taken off. Anyway, amazing musician, plays the trumpet, and he, like you, worked at the academy of where the musical academy or whatever.
Oh yeah, like a school.
Yeah, the top school.
University or something.
Yeah, but it's called,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Academy.
Yeah.
It's like
the royal. Yeah.
So he's that. And what you're describing now, when he talked about how because I was like, well, how do you teach this to find find your artistic voice or whatever? It's like you're practicing. You got to practice all the time to become better. But then you also, you got to listen wide. You got to listen to all the other trumpet players so that you know what's out there as you're developing, and then you will find resonance with someone. And those who you find resonance with, you need to listen to all of their stuff, so that you can use them as the master class and going. Don't just strive to become. And you didn't know about them, and him as a teacher then is to know everybody who plays the trumpet. So when he hears the new student, he goes, "You need to listen to this person and this person and this person, so that you can." Stand on the shoulders of giants.
Well, you just said it. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, right.
This part of being in a community is that we are all standing on the shoulders of giants, and you need to know what giant you're standing on.
Yeah,
because you are,
and also because then you will put the ladder on their shoulders and take this resonates with me, like we talked about earlier. Like I'm saying, you're going like, oh, how is Tamariz as a performer or whatever in magic, and I'm like, oh, I like him, but. I feel like that my gut feeling with Tamariz is that for some reason Danny D'Artis, being his student and whatever, he spoke to me even stronger than the master.
Oh yeah,
and that the master's books speaks to me very strongly. But for some reason, the way that Danny D'Artis had distilled his masters,
right,
and I can see.
Yeah.
But then he also goes. I also have Leonard Green with the chaos, and I also have David Williamson with his incredible technique, yet looking like an absolute doofus in the most beautiful way.
Right.
So and then you go, I can see all of that, and he speaks about his influences, and you can see it in his work, but it is not derivative. It's so that when David Williamson watches him,
that's the point.
He will shake his hand and go, "Oh my God, you're good," and he goes, "Oh, but that bit, that's you," and but it isn't.
But that's the point, right? Isn't that so funny that the opposite attitude of I'm going to stick my head in the sand, I'm not going to go see any other jugglers because I don't want it to influence me. Actually, at the end of the day, because you are in that danger when you go out into the world that you are being derivative, where it's like the more you know,
you don't know it. The
more you know, the less likely you are to be derivative if you make that choice. And then you have a conscious choice. It's not just a roll of the dice and like, well, I hope nobody else thought of this. And it's funny you said about the listening to all the different trumpet players out there or whatever, because I'm also the type of personality where, especially when I was like early teenager or whatever, I would find an album I liked, like a music album or something. I was really into Def Leppard, let's say. But then I had all my friends, they would just listen to the one song on the album, right? And I'm like, no, but the whole album is so fun. Listen to the other songs. I just like this one song. But then I'm also the type where I read the liner notes. And I go, oh, who's the producer of this CD or this album or whatever? Oh, what other bands did they produce? And then you go down through all the band members. Do they have any side projects? Do they, like, I don't know. If I find something I like, I just want to kind of dig deeper and see where the wormhole takes you to see the related work, around. And it goes back to this idea of community.
But this also is that you and me, and why we're having so many conversations and why I feel like you've saved my sanity so many times, is that we're both, what I think, is interested in this depth dimension. I find something that I like, and then I get fascinated by it. And sometimes it's a pop song, and after a while, I'm tired of that thing, and I listen to the other stuff, and it doesn't speak to me, and then that goes away. But the things that stick with me are the things that are deep. I was crazy about Sherlock Holmes for a long time. And that's 52 short stories, and at some point I kind of felt like I had my head around it in a way. And then that's why I keep going on with Steiner as a thing, because it does not matter what I do or think. you'll find some that this dude has talked about it in a way that I couldn't imagine.
But here's the thing. Look at this. You get an album, right? There's one song on it you love. Okay, but you love that song. You listen to the other songs. You're like, this isn't really doing it for me. But you still listen to them. This is the process, man. It's not random. If you find something you love, there is something of value there, and you need to respect that, and you need to follow the trail, even if it sucks. This is the work, right? So you follow who's the producer, who played bass on that, who's playing guitar, and what guitar pedals were they using. You follow the wormhole, and that it doesn't mean it's always pleasant, and it doesn't mean you love the rest of the album, but you follow that path, and you're gonna find another thing you do love or whatever. At least for me, I just wanted to bring up that point that
and that's
it's not
wonderful.
always about it, but it's about a process and trusting the having faith in the process and the work. And
but it's also to have an understanding of relations, of that relationships are the foundational thing of the universe. That's me saying it, but that's just to express in emotional numbers, as we have talked about, emotionally, to go just how important it is. It's the relations, and depth is about interconnectivity. It's how things are connected. And by knowing what the other people in the band, and knowing how the show was put together, and after now just 3 episodes, and of course there's all sorts of stuff more that we could talk about with Mystere, but to know the different projects, and we haven't even delved into the artists and what they had done before that made them all chosen for but there's so much depth to dig into if you want to, and what it meant and whatever. And I think that the core thing here now is that when you see the art of my act, when you see it the first time, you see the shiny surface and what has been created for us, this sort of, that's the first viewing is one particular thing. But then as you start to look at the craft and you see, how do I make it? And why do I make you laugh even when you've seen it 6 times? Then you laugh again.
Right.
You laughed at the specific way that night I fell off the stage, so that it still surprised you, because it is actually real. I am actually falling. And what I do to let myself fall, so I am out of balance. And you go, ooh, and you get that little feeling in you. And in that, you are now starting to participate. You're scratching the surface, maybe, if you've seen the 6 times, but you're scratching the surface of the depth. And the depth dimension of the universe is to be found absolutely everywhere. I know I go on about this all the time, that nature is always more than you can ever express. And that this is a little bit, people say that the depth dimension of the world of reality is also, another word for that is to call it the sacred. It's when you step into a dimension where it is, where things take on another meaning. It's not just a person walking across the stage, and maybe the first time you just see that in Mystere, they come in, but then maybe you're very perceptive and you take in the symbolism of everything, and you see the abyss opening up, and it's the time before everything, and you have the 2 poles and the drums come down and the sound, and it calls forth life. Maybe you see those things, maybe you don't, and maybe that is just off with the horses, but I said that I knew what Dragon had said about the beginning. So this dimension is available there. Someone might say it was a snail and the drums and the floor went down. I don't get it.
Sure.
But that is also the nature of the sacred. One of the fundamental things about the sacred, or a deep dimension, is mystery. It's to not know. It's to face something and not understand it. And this is the name of the show. It's Mystere. And I'm taking it in this direction because you have several times talked about.
And you mentioned this like 25 minutes ago, so we should just say it. That basically, so
No, this is also just going that you say, you watch this and you...
that I'm going to church.
That you go to church. And
well, let's hold that.
Let's hold that
for a second.
I'm just flagging where I'm going with this thing and how it's related
after a while,
to ritual
because after a while, I'm going to see the show a bunch, and I start to notice myself. Like, I've seen this show quite a lot. Like, why am I doing that? Like just as a passing curiosity. I mean, obviously, I just enjoy going to see the show, but at some point, you like I said before, the more you do something, the longer you do something, for me, you have to find the deeper connection to keep doing it. Because at some point, you're just like, why am I doing this? And like, what's the answer? And at some point, it just popped into my head. I go, at this point, when I go to see Mystere, I'm going to church. It's my church. in many different ways. We get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
But so 94, I had Pat McGuire was in the cast, right, my old juggling partner, and I was obsessed with the show to the point where I was obsessed with it just because, again, I got to follow this journey. It was my favorite circus company, and my favorite, juggler, Michael Motion, made this piece, and it was my great friend Patrick, who had been working with for a couple years, so I had very close personal ties to the project, and so I was really curious about it. I was excited about it. I don't know. I was just enthusiastic about it, to the point where, though, I had the phone number of the gift shop memorized because I was in Ohio, and before the show opened, I was calling the gift shop. They because they had the shop open a couple weeks before. They're getting all the T-shirts ready and the hats and the little figurines and stuff, and I'm just calling once a week saying, "Hey, when's the program going to be printed? When's the soundtrack coming out?" And then they were always super nice, though. And they're like, "Oh, yeah, maybe call next week. It should be out in a few weeks, but give a call next week. But we'll know then." But then it was so long delayed, the whole process, though. But I had called so many Fridays. Every Friday I would call the Mystere gift shop for Ohio, And and then it just became stuck in my mind, that phone number, for years and years. And eventually it was before I saw the show live, I did get a program. I had them ship me one to Ohio from Las Vegas from the gift shop. And then I just looked at that every day. And the photos were just, I would just dream into those photos and just like, wow, look at this show, and Pat's in this show, and he's in Vegas, and look at this. And I'd seen Nouvelle Experience, and, like on video and all the other shows, and I'd seen Nouvelle Experience in Vegas, and I'm just like pouring through this program being like, wow, this is gonna be amazing, just being hyped on it as a fan. So at one point, though, after I saw the show for the first time live, I finally badgered Patrick enough times, which I'm sure I constantly annoyed him, but he sent me a secret video of the show, because in the tech booth they record on the little camera. It's all washed out, like really bad quality. It's not zoomed in. It's just a picture of the whole stage. They just record every show in case there's a problem, in case there's an accident or a rigging problem. They can review the footage and see what really happened and fix it later and whatever. So he sent me a video of the show from 1994 from a tech booth cam. And I watched that video every single day for a year.
So that's and there too, it's not because maybe the first day and then you're excited the second day and the third day, but at some point you must have thought, I have now watched this 10 days in a row. When did it become?
But it became a ritual.
So this is yeah.
Well, I know what I was going to say. So it became a ritual that I would come home from school, and then I would watch the video. And as I watched the video, I'd eat a little snack and kind of, decompress from the day. But I would be like interested in the video. I mean, I was still fascinated by it. And then when the video would be done, it'd be time to go juggle. I would go juggle, and then I'd have dinner, and then I would just juggle till as late as I could get my parents to let me stay up. And so it became this kind of part of a daily routine, which you can kind of do when you're in school and you're a kid, right? You get this daily routine kind of thing. And it became part of my daily ritual just to sit and watch the show. And what was crazy was, we had a I guess a medium-sized TV for the day. But like back then, it was still the TV with the tubes, like the big fat TVs, the big heavy boxes and whatever. And you have to imagine that, like, when you go see the show, we talked about how immersive it is, like, physically, to be there in the show live, in the audience. But now I'm watching a video from the tech booth. The camera zoomed all the way out, so you can't really see small details, like people's facial expressions. It's in this little square in front of me. I'm in the living room, right? So I have my field of vision is filled with the walls and the ceiling and the carpet and my parents and whatever is in the living room. And there's like a little square in front of me. But what was crazy was every time I watched the show, I saw something new. And I don't mean as a big revelation. I'm like, whoa, wait a second, there was a hand-to-hand act?
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't there yesterday.
Yeah, but those are the new things you see the first 10 times.
So it was the little details in the corners, or like maybe one time I would watch it and I would only look at the background projections on the sky. They call this set piece the sky. I would only look at the projections on the sky, and you'd be like, whoa, wait a second, there's a face there during this act. I had no idea there was a face there. Even on this little TV that I had seen, you know, over the course of a year, you could still pick out, oh, that character, I'm just going to watch that character today and see what there's their track and all these things. I mean, and this is at the same time that I was really developing my understanding of the mechanics of performance and making a show. And again, I was very sheltered in one way. I didn't have a lot of experiences of seeing different things. So this was also kind of a textbook lesson in terms of like choreography and staging and transitions and rigging. And so it became this kind of ritual, but it was also very informative in ways that I didn't intend when I started that journey, right?
But that's also super interesting that we've talked about if you in life can become a master of the depth of one thing, that you truly love it and you go all the way in, then the patterns of that thing will always in one way or another mirror the rest of the world. In a sense that so when you're learning choreography and you're learning all this, it doesn't mean that all you could ever think now was the way that person did it in that show or that track of that performer.
Right.
You look at it to such a depth that you fully know what back projection is. You have a relationship to and a thought about what the back wall of a show can do, should do, what you like, what you don't like. Oh, this bit's so boring, I don't want to look at it now.
Absolutely.
And then you get opinions about light and about sound and so you get this education by studying one thing rather than looking at a million things. You learn it through knowing it so well.
Well, and not just through one thing, but from the thing I had access to.
Well, there's that too.
Right? No, but just to say, sitting in the farm in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's like I could watch Mystere every night because I had that video. It was like gold. Whereas
also, the mystery of that too. It's a tape that comes. It's a copy of a copy or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's you don't quite see it. So there are shadows. There's a liminal space for you to enter into. You don't see the perfect close up of the DVD of everything. So
it's not
you have to
in,
imagine yourself into it as well in a certain way.
You have to meet it in a certain way to have it have value.
And like you said it already, but that you watch something every day for 1 year, and then 84 times in the show live.
Yeah.
That, and that you come home from school, you eat your food, you do all those things, and you do the little things that you have to do. And
you chill,
and you watch. But that is a ritual.
Yeah.
And this thing about ritual is that it has been said that ritual is the dramas which communicates our deepest values. So this is, of course, talking specifically more about religious kind of rituals. But there are all kinds of rituals that baseball players do before they hit the ball, or tennis players do before, and they do all this stuff to it. And we might say that it could be like Skinner's pigeons, who would pick the thing and then the food comes at random, but they're picking and they turned around and then they picked again and the food came and they thought that it was related to them turning around. So they start to do all this stuff. So we can go. We could say that it's like that. But when somebody has intentionally made a piece of art, like Mystere, or when somebody have the handed down oral tradition into books, into what has become Christianity or Judaism or whatever, the rituals which are in those are not trivial. And the rituals and the thought and imagination and human blood, sweat and tears, and somebody died when they fell in the abyss, that of Mystere is not trivial. So this thing is something that you can genuinely take seriously, and when you look at it and engage with it, there will be depth to find, and in that you can then go, it's communicating our deepest values and the human dramas, not because he's tried to capture everything, but because it has so much depth that when you look at this character to the right in the corners, but you might also look at him in relation to, because twice he interacts with another person. Then you look at that person another day, and then you see how they interact. And from those things, becomes infinite depth within this thing, not just because of what they do, because the show is always the same, but because your understanding of this we can now call it the ritual of the show, of going through this thing, which at one point had something to do with the origin of life. But it also comes out of talking about mythology, like a show that never happened in Caesar's Palace about Greek mythology. And then we know from the quote that I did in the last episode where Dragoni talks like it's the sum of all mythologies to come into the... So he had that mindset when he made it, which means that I would say that this, as much as you could say about the great albums or whatever that somebody went into, Sgt. Pepper's or whatever, these things that you can look into, and then it's the cover art, and why did they do this, and what happened there, and what was their stories of when they made these things. That there can be depth in here that can allow you to see the kind of depth that a religious person would only see within religious rituals, and that the capacity to experience and feel the sacred, like feel this all of a sudden when you're watching the show, you get this, the floor sinks away, and it's an existential kind of thing, that this depth becomes real, and that it's can be called sacred.
When I knew when you were going to come visit me here in Stockholm this week, you wanted to talk about Mystere and why I would watch it a lot and kind of dive into that. And I did have in thinking about these questions that we were going to maybe talk about, I did have a bit of an epiphany in trying to think this out. In that I did realize that, so yeah, I had that phrase in my mind for years. It's like going to church. When I go into that theater, I am home. And I mean that in the artistic sense, like I feel I am home. And there is that constant parallel thread in my life. And that doesn't mean to say when I'm drifting off to sleep tonight, I will think like, oh, Mystere is still in Vegas and I am still on planet Earth. It's not that psychotic yet. But there is, when I get to go to Vegas and I'm physically in that theater and I go, I'm still alive, Mystere is still alive. There's something there that I find very, very compelling. And so I was thinking about these thoughts. I knew you were going to poke me about this Mystere thing. And I had this thought of, the more I learn about Mystere and the more I learn about the people who are in Mystere, and not just, and that's funny because most of the stuff I learn is very practical and down to earth. And in one way it's very mundane, even boring, but it helps me understand why things are happening in that theater the way they happen. So, this person was sick this week. That's why the transition looked like that. That's why you had to cut the second song because, that person was out and you have a new person who hasn't trained, or that new person got trained in, but they haven't had their costume headpiece made yet. Isn't that crazy? They are on full salary for 5 months and they're waiting for their shoes to be made in Montreal or whatever, right? It's like a banal detail, but it has a real life repercussion in that theater. And then when I go see the show and I go, what happened to that second transition song? They cut that short or whatever, right? Because I know the show so well. But then I know the story behind it, why it's like that. And it's a microcosm of me also understanding the world at large. I go, if I can comprehend what's happening in that theater in Las Vegas, I also have a shot of comprehending the world in the larger realm somehow. So it's a little bit of a parallel of like, I go see Mystere, and the more I learn about Mystere, the more I can dive deeper into it, and the deeper I dive into it, the more I learn about it. It's like a circular kind of process. And the kind of result of that process is, yes, it's a hobby to be obsessed with Mystere or to be into the show. And it's also, it serves also a professional, because I'm a performer as well. So it's very close to my profession. So I can also find parallels there between my work, which I find valuable, but also just in general, I'm like, I've grown up watching Mystere all these years through happenstance or whatever, because this random personal connection that started it all with the show. And as I've grown up, my understanding of the world has grown up, and as my interest in the show has deepened, I've also started to understand these, again, business decisions or non-artistic decisions or logistical decisions, and I get to know some of the performers and I get to hear their experience of inside the show. And from hearing all those things, again, it makes it even more magical. It doesn't detract from it. And not only does it make the show more magical, but it makes me able to comprehend and go, so that's how they had to stage the show this week, or that's how they had to deal with that replacement, or that's how they got new props, or they're going to redo the light design because of the LED bulbs, blah, 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 blah. And then, I don't know, I don't know why, but then I can look around in the world and go, oh yeah, there are light bulbs in different places or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It expands bigger than that show.
I totally think so.
So
and I use that as well, love. The things that I know, which anyone who's listened to this for many episodes know that I often then return to my acts, different acts that I have, where I talk about or do certain things, and I see those kinds of mechanisms function in the world, because some of those things that I've done thousands of times, and I am aware that doing my act and doing it is a ritual. I go through the same stuff. I have to do the warm-up, so I literally have to bow down, get on the floor, warm up, do stuff to prepare myself, mental stuff in the moments before I go on, the last few minutes where I'm frequently standing there for 3 or 4 minutes where I'm just getting ready, and I'm moving and checking all of my muscles where I know I can need to make sure they're ready, but also then being ready to when those doors, in my mind it's with Mad Apple because we're talking with Circus and Cirque du Soleil, and the door open and I go out into that space, and this is my only chance in this show to give people everything that I have. My whole philosophy, everything that I've ever talked about on the podcast now has to shine out through this one moment. And I had moments when I was performing in with La Clique, and we were at the Hippodrome, and it kept going and kept going. We had a 2-month contract that became 9 months, and there was a curtain there that was at the back, and I could stand behind that curtain, and there was people sitting very close behind it because we were warming up behind it. And I had this ritual there before I went out, and this was also really the season that just took La Clique from being a hit of the Edinburgh Fringe and an underground late night show to being a juggernaut of a show that won the Olivier Prize, and all in London.
Show
it was a real thing at that time. And I was standing behind that curtain and listening to the audience, and because when you're doing the show 8 times a week and month after month after month goes, how do you keep it fresh? And for me, it was to be there with the audience where I'm going, it's the ritual of me going through it, but them being there, looking at me, and me genuinely making this real for them right now. This is a kind of sacred thing. I do not take it for granted. I'm not to be allowed to be on stage in a situation where people are so excited, and then I get to come out and take them to even another level from what has happened before me, and I do my thing, and this is not something that I think is a privilege, or that it should just be given. No, it is a privilege. It's not something that I can demand or whatever. So you have to earn it or whatever, and going out there and listening to them and being fully aware that I have to be grateful for this and have a certain form of reverence for them. That puts me in this mood that when I did that so many times, hundreds of times there. It didn't start in the beginning. It started maybe once we'd done 150 shows or something, and we still had 150 whatever shows left. I didn't know that at the time, but it just going through it. So now when I'm standing behind there, it is that moment where I come up, and if I have been down in the basement warming up and getting ready, and I haven't gone up and seen any of the other acts, which I usually do, but sometimes I just haven't, maybe been in a conversation, I go up and then I stand. There's a couple of little spots at the back of the stage at Mad Apple where you can stand and look at the audience. And I sometimes in the other act, when it's early on, I can go out and have my tracksuit on, and I can sneak out against and actually sit in seats in the audience, because the ones closest to the back of the stage are kind of like the ones that has the worst angle or whatever. So there's often on those first seats you get to, there's often some empty ones because people choose to sit in the best angles. And I go out there and I'm watching the act, but I've also watched the act, so I'm also watching and feeling the room, how they are like, or whatever, so that when I come out, I can feel like I'm
part of that,
connecting to them immediately or whatever. And this is I think this is as much as you have to take everything with a grain of salt or whatever, but it's a sacred kind of experience for me. I feel like I'm part of something bigger. I'm part of this particular night here for these people, and because it happens to be that Cirque at Mad Apple have decided that the comedians, those people who go through every time, they have to go out and do a meet and greet afterwards after every show, which normally is something that I'm not crazy about. But the people who have done already 2,000 shows, it's great that I do it. I'm there for 2 months and I can find, but what that gave me when I was there, the feedback that I get back after having done the show, and they go, "Oh my God, it's you, and you were my favorite." And of course it's skewed as well, because we're standing off to the side, so the people who did like me have a stronger tendency to go over.
But still,
if somebody hated me,
you have that chance. But you have the chance to meet them, at least
and
get that feedback,
genuine reaction from these people, and it's it never gets old. To know that as I'm getting older and older, that this thing that I can do, I can't do so much in my life, and I'm so dysfunctional in so many things, and I could not function as a human being if I didn't have my wife to help guide me in the real world. So to be there and to do that, and to know that these 10 minutes of my life, 12 minutes of my life, this is what I know best of all. I can... Any mistake that happens in here, like we just talked about the other day, there was one time when the microphone didn't work, and there was one time when the music didn't work, there was one time in not in Cirque where the music and the microphone didn't work at all in a show with 3,000 people, and I still did my act. So there's almost nothing that can't, that won't allow me to go through it. So that is because I know the depth. I know everything that can go wrong, and I've tried to get out of it before. Much. Yet it still somehow surprises me every now and then. I go, holy shit, something happened today that has never happened. So it still happens. So.
It's like watching the video every day for a year, and you still see a new little thing in it.
What is that?
But it's funny you say that about kind of taking the show seriously, in one way to paraphrase. But watching, one side effect of watching Mystere over 31 years live is there's obviously so many new cast members who weren't in the show 31 years ago. And in fact, the only cast member who was in the original show since 1993 who never missed a performance until the pandemic, then he retired. His name was Bruce Rickard, and he was the guitar player in the band. And he played over 12,000 shows of Mystere. And I have to say, he was a great guitar player. I saw him in many of those shows, obviously. I would sit in a seat and I could see Bruce play. But towards the end, before the pandemic, it looked like he had played 12,000 shows. Oh, wow. Like he looked like he just wanted to die, I have to say, from the audience. I don't know how he felt. He still played a nice solo during the swinging trapeze, but man, it was looking rough. But what I wanted to say is these younger, especially a lot of the teeterboard jumpers now, are these younger kids, like 20 years old. They didn't hear Franco tell them that he wanted the audience to be afraid of them. They weren't there for that. Yeah. And the thing is, I find a lot of the new generation of performers in the show, they don't take it seriously. They take the teeterboard seriously because that's what they were hired to do. But then they have to do all these other cues, like the 20 Chinese poles that descend in the background of the main Chinese pole act. That's also some of their cues they have to do. And they don't care about Chinese pole. And they don't care about the choreography. And they're, quote unquote, in the background. And they just don't take it seriously. And you can just tell, like, for me, it's just a sloppy show. And that's what I said before about it depended on what era over the decades of what artistic director you would get. Mm. And for some, at one point in the mid 2000s, the show was looking really bad, like just super rough. Because the artistic director didn't really care about cleaning up the background's intention of the choreography and this and that. And now I think it's on an upswing. They have a great new artistic director, and the show's looking super good. But again, still sometimes you see these people not take the show seriously, and I get it. That's also for me fascinating in the way of thinking about doing a show 10 times a week for years and years and years. You can't always do 100% perfection. You can't be always 100% present. You can't, it's going to ebb and flow, and that's a human, that's to be human, right? And it still puts me in awe, though, of just understanding to keep that mechanism running for 31 years, or any of the shows that have lasted decades and decades. It's incomprehensible in one way that they had this artistic vision, and now 31 years later, you're going to hire this new cast member who wasn't born when the show opened.
Yeah.
And then or was born a decade after the show opened. These kids are 20 years old. And then you say, okay, so you're going to wear this costume, and then you're going to run across the stage like this, and then you're going to hold this prop, and then you're going to wear this mask, and then you're going to do this thing, and the kids are just like, okay. And they don't know, what it means or the intention or whatever behind it. They just, they do hopefully their best. But what they're best at is connected to normally their main discipline, and the other stuff they're not so connected to. So to do their best is just like to do what someone, stand here and hold this stick or something. And they're like, okay. But then they don't know what it's supposed to mean. And in that way, because you asked me, for you, does the show maybe embody some sort of like genesis of life and kind of the meaning of life or the evolution of life and all these things that the creators talked about in the creation? And I was just like, nah, I don't really see that in the show these days, other than I see a show that I'm very happy to see. Like I said, it's in good shape right now, and I can respect the rhythm of the show and the pacing and the effort the performers are giving. We talked already about the relationship of the clowns to each other. We talked about the strong dance team, and also some of the performers who have been there, like Shingo, one of the best Chinese pole performer. There is just this maturity and grace and just virtuosity in those roles that these performers have, who have been there for 15 years, and it's so impressive to be in their presence, to be like, in one way you can say Bruce did 12,000 shows and like, man, you just want to shoot yourself maybe. But on the other hand, I mean, he could play that guitar. Like, I don't know, there's a balance there to find, but it's also...
But maybe also the musicians are in an even more sort of secluded spot, so maybe they also, when you've done it thousands of times, you feel like you're just in this room and maybe you're not so connected or so, and that is also something that you actively have to pursue, just like taking the show seriously, taking your life, taking your partner or your child seriously.
There you go.
Is a choice that you can do. And taking yourself seriously. You can choose to be a better you.
Yeah.
You can choose to improve. You have done this life every day of your life, but you can choose to look at yourself and improve it, or to, this aspect of myself, I'm sloppy on my background China's pole thing. I think I can't be seen, so I'm on my phone when my kid is doing her whatever it is, gymnastics or whatever. It's like... But also just in terms of taking the job seriously, of course, then you still watch the show, and the show is still happening, so the ritual is still there. And then this Chinese pole artist, Shingo, then this person comes out onto stage and then all of a sudden shines like a diamond in a bunch of people who might not be doing it, and you are now maybe more of an expert than that person who is on the teeter boards.
Act, without a doubt,
because you know what the show is, and then you see the spark of something which is probably or arguably the reason why this show is still playing after 32 years. Because as everything gets sloppy, as everyone stops to take the whole of the show, and the other artists and all of that, this stuff that you get not for free, I don't take it for granted, in the pioneer stage of it, when the director vents their anger at your ineptitude to realize his vision, and when your hands are bleeding because you have actually been hanging on this trapeze for so many days in a row to learn this new thing that you want and that the show needs, and that group thing that happens in that, which eventually, as people are leaving and as all that, and you get into the doing it over and over and over again, that's where I think choosing to take it seriously, choosing to see the depth and seeing how everything is interconnected and trying to work out how things goes will keep the show endlessly fascinating for you. It can be a way for you to, and it's for all the people, all artists everywhere. It's you, if you choose to take yourself seriously and you believe some of these things that I say about what I think a showman can be, and how it's related to the sacred, how it's related to the shaman, and how all these things that I will develop further as we go on, and how I see play as the origin of what we do, and how fundamental the aspect of play is to being a human being, and not just being becoming set in your ways and becoming becoming old.
Right.
Because I felt it now. Like I'm here visiting you in Stockholm, and I'm sleeping in your son's bed, and I'm climbing up into it, and there's part of me that also goes, there's something about this that I fly out to see a friend just to talk. I sleep in his son's bed, but for his son, there's a 49-year-old man who's coming and hanging around.
Yeah.
Like, and I go, this was what I did when I was 20, or when I was, and I don't feel like I've changed, but sometimes I become aware of the fact that I'm like almost 50. But my love and continual reflection on what we do that you and me share, then it feels like it's alive, and I have taken the choice to do it seriously, and you have too. And
I mean, those teeterboard kids, when they're doing the Chinese pole cue, you can tell they think it's stupid. They this choreography is dumb, and because they think it's dumb, it is dumb. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy there, right? And when Shingo comes out and does his pole solo, maybe for him it's another Tuesday. Maybe it's his worst show he's ever done. He doesn't care, and he's thinking about, I'm going to have chicken tonight after dinner. But he still has done that act for 15 years, and he can't help but shine because he has it in him. And maybe those teeterboard kids, hopefully the show goes for 100 years. Who knows, right? But like maybe the teeterboard kid who's 20 years old now, who thinks that the Chinese pole cue is stupid, maybe in 15 years they'll be the one who's carrying the show. Not because it's the Thursday night early show and they think it's the coolest thing they've ever done, but because they can't help it, because they have it inside their body. And I think to be there for 15 years, you have to find the depth and you have to find the truth. You can't phone it in for 15 years. You can't play the guitar for 12,000 shows without some kernel of truth there that compels you to still be there, you know?
And it shines out of you. Like it's you that's what I believe enthusiasm is. It's that inner sacred thing, enthusiasm, the enthusiasm being entered by a god or so. And I think that there's something in that which when you have genuine enthusiasm and you believe in the depth of what you do, and you believe in the validity of what you do, and the choices that you've taken through a long life, or if you're at the beginning of the way of the showman and you've just landed your first job with Cirque du Soleil and you're a teeterboard artist and you think it's stupid to have to do something else. Which I have been in that situation where I'm in a show and all of a sudden I have to do some dancing on the side.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, one of my pet peeves of like there's an opening dance. So the first thing they see of me is how inept I am at dancing. Then I have to win them back in the show because they have their first encounter with me.
No, the even worse thing than that is when the director says, and now when we come do the bow for the group show, one by one when you come out and bow, just do a quick little trick. An extra little trick, because the stupid dancing at the beginning of the show is the first impression. Yeah, that's not fun. But then you get to do your act later on, so you leave them with a great impression of you. But then when you come to your bow, you have to do one more cool little thing, and if it's not quite as cool, they're like, "Oh, I like that guy, but what was he doing?"
Liked him better before he did that.
Yeah, what was he doing with the handkerchief there? Anyway, but do you have any more questions about Mystere? So I think, I mean, I'm shooting for 100 shows to see it live 100 times. That seems to be some sort of quest of like maybe a completion somehow. And so hopefully that'll happen in my lifetime. But other than that, I don't know. What else do you want to know about Mystere? Are you good?
I think we have a good sort of cursory overview, and then we can sort of go deeper at another time.
We could start talking about it for real. Like later on.
Because now we've sort of gone, these are the things that we could potentially talk about.
Yeah.
And then we can make
I'm going to start doing a live blog every time I see the show.
Excellent.
And in real time.
A live video blog just of your face.
Okay, Johnny Miles is walking on the stage. He stopped in the center of the stage. He has the puppet.
The interesting thing now is that the timing has changed here because of his growing relationship with Jimmy Slonina. And they have this moment that used to be 1 second. Now this is work developed into this thing. Yeah. Anyway, now that we've done this, I did when I was on Two Characters and a Clown on their podcast. Then I did air this idea. So I've had this since March last year when I've talked to you about. I gotta talk to you about Mystere. And I did talk to them when I was there. That after the podcast, I think they said I would like to talk to you guys, or at least to some of them or whatever, about what it's like. And then no one is better than you to come up with how to frame it for them, because they're all just come in later, and I should say they should listen to these 4 episodes here and going, do you take the show this seriously? And if so, why not? But also what is kind of wonderful as well with having these 3 characters that is shining in the show and that really enjoys it, and that when I have talked to them about it, they just find the depth, and how Jimmy is like, he loves to be in a show to do the same thing over and continue to find new details and stuff, to hear that in them. And then it's not a coincidence that they are shining in the show. And if 3 people like that have that connection, that every time they come on, there's a little sparkle, and they look at each other, and they have, in every moment that they have, that is sometimes enough sort of to save it. And then the Chinese pole artist and that, and the good artistic director or a powerful stage manager that can focus it. And it's almost no people that can.
Yeah.
But we had one like that for a while in Mark. Can't remember his last name, but he was just extraordinary. And now he works for
Yeah.
And what he did backstage when they have the weekly meeting, Tapis Rouge, when they're talking, I was shocked. I did not know that this level of communication could go on in an organization as big and as old and as corporate as Cirque du Soleil.
Right.
But that there was overflowing heart from him in when he brought up what had happened in a week and how he dealt with that, and it was amazing. And you can get that sometimes through a few performers as well, and sometimes it is from new performers that come in.
Sure.
Those people who aren't dulled by 2,000 shows.
No, for sure.
But that come in and are, I can't believe that I'm in this production.
Yeah.
There is somebody here, some wonderful ladies who keep coming out of they go, can I dry clean your suit? Can I organize? Oh, I you told me to just wash your tennis shorts because it gets white when I roll on the floor. Anyway, it gets dirty. And then he goes, but I saw that there was a little seam that was open on the side there. So I just fixed that. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So she just hand
Is it okay
stitched
that I
it.
hand stitched your
So it's
your
not
costume?
just I found that like I had this great relationship going in talking to those ladies who were working there, and they just had this care that they, when it was washed, they did not just take it out of the bag and hang it on the hanger.
Yeah.
They took it out and they looked at it. And they checked the pockets.
Yeah.
And they checked everything on it and going, is this the way that it could be and as good as it could be? And they made sure that it was.
Yeah, it's so fascinating on so many levels that to do a show for that long, of any of these shows that you're doing 10 shows a week in Vegas, just grinding it out, and that there has to be some sort of level of commitment and gratitude and appreciation and awareness and passion and all these things, while at the same time not burning yourself out. And and that's pretty incredible. And that's maybe part of this thing of like why RJ and Jimmy and Johnny don't really talk about the work on their own podcast, because you can't really. They're living it every day, you know.
Yeah.
To go
so they
ahead
haven't got the perspective that you have for not being in it and not having been
but
in it.
And maybe you need that perspective of just like taking a step back after work to keep doing it night after night to like a high level of quality, which they do. And you know, because otherwise you're just going to burn yourself out or something. But I find the whole balancing act of all that to be really
fascinating.
It's just crazy. It's beyond reality, and I'll still. As many times as I see the show, I'll still probably never understand it fully, you know, of how the world works like that. But it's fun to try.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And thank you so much for doing all of this. And
Thanks, Frodo.
I can't wait to plumb the depths for real.
Yeah, exactly. See you then.
See you then.
All right. Thanks for coming along on this leg of the journey. I hope whatever project you're working on in your world, whatever shows you're dreaming about, or whatever shows you're actually doing, that you're finding depth and value, and that is giving you the purpose that you need in life. I hope so. If it isn't, then you can ask yourself why that isn't. And maybe this last month's explorations of Jay's obsession with Mystere, which has certainly kindled my interest in it, and I know when I go back to work with Mad Apple in later on, that's actually going to be in May. From the middle of May until the middle of July, I will be performing with Mad Apple in New York City. No, it's not New York City, it's New York Casino in Las Vegas. And I will return back there and perform there in all of September and all of October. So if you're going to be in Las Vegas, you can come there and see me. And you can also maybe join me, say if you're there and you want to go and see Mystere, then I certainly am going to see it at least one more time, which will take my tally up to 2, so watch out, Jay Gilligan. There's a new Mystere fan in town. So, until next time, take care of yourself and those you love, and I hope to see you along the way.